first round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins.
Welcome Isaac to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says hi.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game Grotto.
Welcome Gaga and Grumps to Wordle with
Grab
Gaga.
your game heart, claim your points and protect your game.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Grumps says it Isaac hi. Welcome Grumps to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says it Chris Marvin, welcome back.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga
Welcome
Grumps
Chris Marvin
says
to
hi,
Wordle
guys.
with Gaga.
Weather says daily please.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for a daily heart.
Welcome Weather to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says I'm good.
Gang
Grumps
Gremlins
says it
on the
Weather hey.
scene. Welcome Gremlins to the Game Grotto. Welcome Gremlins to the Game Grotto. Welcoming guys.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game Grotto.
Grab your heart,
Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
tap that screen, yeah, tap it. It's your warm-up routine. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Welcome Ollie the Goat to Wordle with Gaga.
Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Gang Gremlins, come and let's go. Now tap
Gaga
that
Grumps
screen.
says hey there Ollie, long time no see.
Yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Gang Gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen.
Grumps says it Ollie the Goat, welcome back.
Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen.
Usam the XD says hi.
Welcome BLSSOM.VXZ to Wordle with
Gang
Gaga.
Gremlins on the scene.
Grumps says it Caitlin Graham hiya.
Gaga Grumps says who is ready to play Wordle.
DLO some VXC says Grumps hi Grumps.
Grumps says it BL0SM.VXZ hey there.
Gaga Grumps says him leaderboard not showing.
Isaac says I'm ready.
BL0SSOMBXZ says where's the leaderboard?
Gaga Grumps says there we go.
Welcome LL Creative to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Welcome Stefana to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says it Ill Creative 1 hi.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, Creative One says hi.
Gaga Grumps says I have added a new snipe feature. Sending the ranking crown CN steal the leaderboard race and give you the first word. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Blow Zombie XE says O.
Welcome Apoloiser to Wordle with Gaga.
Appaloosa 60 for 1,624,362 says Earth.
Welcome Saint to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says not that you asked.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. R.
Welcome Sophia Smiley Face to Wordle with
Appaloosa
Gaga.
60 for 1,624,362 says Raub.
Appaloosa 64,624,362 says round asterisk.
Sophia says right.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Stefana says round.
Sophia says right.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Welcome Kaiki Less Than to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says treasure box is open.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with R, please Isaac.
Isaac says right.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the rose, Isaac. Gaga Grumps says raise you got. Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart blossom. Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Says Will.
Kaiki 3 says lucky. Apoloiser 64,624,362 says hound.
Isaac says not starting. Good today, low.
Blow Zombie XE says botched.
Welcome Kingboy to Wordle with Gaga.
Kaiki 3 says lucky.
Grump says it's Sant no R.
Kaiki 3 says lucky.
Gaga Grumps says never underestimate a good wipe it.
Blow some VXZ says botch.
Gaga Grumps says botch fits.
Blow some VXD says or so bound.
Gaga Grumps says that Chris Marvin I had a double on today's Wordle. Gaga Grumps says we end in CH.
Blossom VXC says punch.
Says hunch. Kiki 3 says lunch.
Grump says clutch. Grump says or not.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the heart and kiss Stefania and Sant.
BLO Zombie XV says at Grumps 6 letters.
Stefana says punch.
Kiki 3 says lunch.
Gaga Grumps says punch fits.
Grump says at BL0SM.VXZ, yeah, I noticed after I so proudly posted it. Welcome
Says
Buddy Biz
hunch.
Bala to Wordle with Gaga.
Kiki 3 says lunch.
BL0SM.VXZ says welcome Killian to Wordle with Gaga. LL Creative 1 says lunch.
Buddy Bizbala says munch. Gaga Grumps says we have an UNCH, but is it a trap?
We would be honored.
Welcome Ava Quaver to Wordle with
Isaac
Gaga.
says lunch.
Kiki 3 says lunch push.
BLO Som VX, Z says munch lunch hunch.
Killian says lunch.
Welcome Big DOYB Levitate
Ava
Agency
Quaver
CEO to
says
Wordle with
lunch.
Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says I see 3 options and 3 guesses, no filter needed.
Or Creative 1 says lump.
Gaga Grumps says spinning lunch first.
Welcome Che to
Kiki
Wordle
3
with Gaga.
says lunch is please hopper.
Says hunch.
Blow Zombie XV says hunch.
Well, Creative 1 says munch.
Buddy Bizballer says munch.
Gaga Grumps says Shy stole the next word.
We would be
Gaga
honored
Grumps says spinning
if you
munch.
would join us.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart shy.
Grump says I have a hunch.
Well, Creative 1 says hunch. Chase says most welcome.
Chase says you've been trapped.
Welcome Eggs and Bacon to Wordle with Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says look at that all green grid.
We would be honored.
Gaga Grumps
if you
says
would
GG
join us.
Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
Don't let him push yours. Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly. Which team are you?
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the follow Eggs and Bacon. Gaga Grumps says do the Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Game!
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart eggs and bacon. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says
Welcome to
let's play
Wordle with Gaga.
Pixworth says audio. Eggs and Bacon says audio.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. L.
Eggs and Bacon says light.
Pixworth says lunch.
The creative one says lunch.
Gaga Grumps says and we had a sniper. So by passing the light race.
Eggs and Bacon says light.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with L please shy. Che says lotus. Gaga Grumps says lotus you got. Gaga Grumps says a yellow tea in need of a home.
Che says these single yellows keep stealing my wipeout.
Isaac says stick.
Gaga
Welcome
Grumps
Muslin to
says
Wordle with
Ardidums.
Gaga.
Eggs and Bacon says gritty.
Ms. Lynn says think.
Isaac says sorry no S.
Gaga Grumps says no S for stick.
Pixworth says train.
Eggs and Bacon says gritty.
Pixworth says train.
Gaga Grumps says think fits. Gaga Grumps says T lives at number 1 Wordle Street.
Isaac says treat.
Welcome Esmeralda # # # # to Wordle with Gaga.
Esmeralda says Teddy.
Ms. Lynn says taper.
Gaga Grumps says treat works. Gaga Grumps says a fistful of yellows.
Says Teary.
Welcome
Eggs
Snake as
and
edits to
Bacon
Wordle with
says
Gaga.
Terry.
Snake's Edit says Terry. Ms. Lynn says taper still works.
Pix VRFS says tip.
Welcome
Gaga
Poppy to
Grumps
Wordle with
says
Gaga.
Terry fits.
Poppy says Terry.
Gaga Grumps says Terry for Wordle in 4. Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Poppy says I'm grumpy.
Good game.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart sant.
Grumps says it sounds welcome back.
Gaga Grumps says do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
A pretty sky. A Wordle with Gaga. A Wordle with Gaga. Da da da. A Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next word. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Pixverve says audio.
Eggs and bacon says I got to.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A, D.
Pixverf says Downs.
Gaga Grumps says eggs and bacon on the nose.
Grumps says it eggs and bacon, see you later.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Eggs and bacon says drums. Pixverf says drink.
Race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Grumps says it eggs and bacon, oops. Thought you said you had to go.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with D please, Chris.
Pixverf says drink.
Gaga Grumps says Delt you got. Gaga Grumps says Yellow E and L in need of new homes.
Says loner.
Gaga Grumps says Loner fits. Gaga Grumps says we have 4 out of 5. All in the wrong place.
Exan Bacon says felon.
Jay says clone.
Kenny Carlisle says clone.
Gaga Grumps says can't be felon E doesn't live there.
Isaac says clone.
Exan Bacon says felon.
Welcome Kenny Carlisle to Wordle with
The
Gaga.
creative one says clone.
Gaga Grumps says clone is a good shout.
Kenny Carlisle says you're welcome.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says you know what time it is.
Explode 'em on her face. She's in a happy place. Fireworks for
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Emojis make her happy. As in her face they slappy. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smile
Gaga
is
Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Kenny Carlisle says why we playing Dora Dora music. Let's get to the next puzzle.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says because we go at a relaxed pace and have songs. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Oscar to Wordle with Gaga.
Grumps says and prediction Gremlin was spot on with fireworks.
Grumps says tea time.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with a T. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Kenny Carlisle says teach. O Creative One says think.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says second like goal smashed you rock. Gaga Grumps says oh Chris jumped Mrs. Lynn on the last hay. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with T Chris.
Kenny Carlisle says okay, there is a reason why only 3 people in here let's play Wordle.
Kenny Carlisle says teach.
Gaga Grumps says trial you got. Gaga Grumps says quality over quantity Kenny lol.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Kenny Carlisle says lol.
Grumps says at Kenny Carlisle maybe other live games are more to your liking.
Oscar says lamer.
Isaac says realm.
Well, Creative One says labor.
Gaga Grumps says yellow RA and L in need of homes.
Miss Lynn says rally.
Kenny Carlisle says labor.
Gaga Grumps says lamer fits.
Kenny Carlisle says early.
Isaac says rally.
Oscar says early.
Welcome Samrat to Wordle with
Isaac
Gaga.
says rally.
LL Creative One says early. Gaga Grumps says we added a homeless E. Alives at Numa too.
Samrat says rails.
Ms. Lynn says early.
Kenny Carlisle says I'm gonna fall asleep before we get this.
Samrat says early.
Isaac says sorry, I'm a bit bad at typing today. Law.
Gaga grumps says rally doesn't work, needs an E. Gaga grumps says early works.
Kenny Carlisle says here comes the Dora Dora music.
Isaac says double fireworks.
Good game.
Fireworks
Oscar
for
says
Gaga.
Wordle in 3.
It's a performance and
Gaga grumps says as long as you don't snorkel.
on her face, she's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga. Wordle within 3.
Gaga grumps says you know what time it is.
Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy.
Good game.
Gaga grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet.
Well, Creative One says at Kenny Carlisle, are you being grumpy?
And that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga grumps says Grumps has the monopoly on
game.
Grumpy. Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Grumps says at Charlie Hayer.
Gaga grumps says we are starting with A. V.
Well, Creative One says V interesting.
Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Grumps says V shall see.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned, like a thon. Fingers on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire.
Gaga grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins define.
Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga grumps says your word starting with V please Isaac.
Isaac says vouch.
Gaga grumps says vouch you got.
The creative one says vicar.
Welcome HK. Ellison to Wordle with Gaga.
H2K Allison says video.
Gaga grumps says yellow C and H in need of a home.
The creative
Welcome
one
Emily
says
Hart
chime.
Hands to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says hi there Ellison.
Welcome KHALEY
Emily says
to
gins
Wordle
is
with
the
Gaga.
KHOLEY says chair.
Gaga grumps says chime fits.
H2K Ellison says at Gaga and grumps, hi.
Welcome Memphis Boss to Wordle with
Gaga
Gaga.
grumps says hi Kali.
KHALEY says hello. Welcome Patrick to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at H2K.Ellison higher.
Isaac says cheap. Oscar says chest.
KHALEY says cheap.
The creative one says check.
Gaga grumps says we start with CH and have a homeless E.
Emily says cheat.
Grumps says at KHALEY higher.
18 Patrick 67 says chest.
Emily says cheat.
H2K Ellison says chest.
Welcome SPN to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says hi Patrick. Nice entrance.
Or creative one says check.
Gaga grumps says chest works. Can we make it 3 in a row?
Emily says cheat.
Welcome Scania BK to Wordle with
Or
Gaga.
creative one says did Kenny fall asleep?
Isaac says cheap.
Emily
Welcome
says
Just
cheap.
Brentley to Wordle with Gaga.
So 3 and 6 are to 8. 3 says cheap.
H2K Ellison says check.
Welcome Yakat to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says E lives at number 3.
KHALEY says
Welcome
cheap.
Sent N Alpha A Sigma TT White Heart to Wordle with Gaga.
Emily says cheap.
Thanks for the follow.
Memphis Boast says
Welcome
cheer.
to
Thanks
Wordle
for
with
the
Gaga.
follow.
Scania BK says cheap.
Grumps says that ill creative one likely found a game more up to his speed.
Sconia BK says cheap.
Thanks for the follow.
Memphis Boast says cheer.
KHALEY says cheer.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Emily says check.
Yakit says cheek.
Gaga grumps says can't be check C doesn't live there. Memphis Boss says cheer.
A creative one says no.
Welcome Gyeongsu Fan to Wordle with Gaga. KJLEY says cheer or cheek. Grump says at. No C at 4.
KHALEY says chewy.
Or Creative One says cheek.
Gaga Grumps says filter needed.
Grump says oh, like chewy, sounds like a call.
Cheong Su One Fan says cheer.
Gaga Grumps says going weeks.
H to K Ellison says cheek or check.
Good game.
Isaac says cheer.
Memphis Boast says cheer.
Grump says no chewy then.
Welcome, Gremlins, to the game grotto. Welcome,
Gaga Grumps says cheer it must be.
Welcome in, guys.
Good game.
Settle down. Grab your
H to K Ellison says
share
cheer.
us round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it, tap it.
LL
It's your
Creative One says yes.
Game Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says we would have lost without the filter.
Game Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up and you need a call of your daily heart.
Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Game Gremlins, come and let's go. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow.
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart Oscar.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Jimmy says hello, Granddad and Granny.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. S. Gaga Grumps says hey there Jimmy, how goes it? Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Jimmy says at Gaga and Grumps good you.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin
Gaga Grumps says third like goal smashed awesome tapping.
on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire, like a thon. Hearts
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Flow 33 CBS says scale.
Addison says audio.
Addison says audio.
CHLO33CVS says scale.
Addison says audio.
CHLO33CVS says stale.
Welcome Clo33.cvs to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says the winner of the like race chooses the first word Addison.
Clo33CVS says cloud.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with S please Isaac.
Addison says, oh, okay.
Isaac says stare.
Gaga Grumps says hi Chloe. Gaga Grumps says stare you got.
Clo33CVS says roast.
Gaga Grumps says alives at number 3, S&R need new homes.
Isaac says scary.
Clo33CVS says nevermind XX. Gaga Grumps says no tea for roast.
Jimmy says that Isaac can't be scary.
Jimmy says crash.
Gaga Grumps says crash fits. Gaga Grumps says we haven't sent a ras.
Jimmy says brass.
Isaac says grass.
Welcome MAYA to Wordle with Gaga.
Maya says brass.
Humor says money.
Welcome UMER to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says brassworks.
Maya says grass.
Gaga Grumps says what not.
Yuma says my cock's long.
Welcome Manos Sack to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily hard, Jimmy.
Clo33CVS says grass.
Isaac says grass.
Mena Sack 19.7 for says grass.
Yuma says my cock's long.
Welcome Cadence Edits to Wordle with
Jimmy
Gaga.
says grass.
Jimmy says at Gaga and Grumps you're very welcome Granny.
Humor says, do you like big wood?
Yuma says do you like big wood?
Gaga Grumps says grasp fits.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Grumps is on the
Good game.
Don't let him push yours! Are you
game.
ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready?
Gaga Grumps says I think you just pushed them on them.
Gremlins, let's go! Gremlins, let's go! Team Gaga, 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 Team Gaga. It's playtime! Gaga is in the box!
Gaga Grumps says wrong button roll.
Don't let him push yours. Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly. Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game Gremlins, let's go. Game Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game
Gaga Grumps says thanks for the oldies Oscar.
Game Gremlins, let's go. Game Gremlins, let's go. Game Gremlins, let's go. Game Gremlins, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Jimmy says H or S. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. T. Gaga Grumps says Chris on the nose.
Jenny says I was yet so close, but yet so far.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Grumps says it Chris Marvin, look at you guessing right.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlin renowned like a thon, fingers on fire like a thon, gremlins don't tire like a thon, hearts beat
Oscar says what is your streak on the regular Wordle?
gremlins define.
Gaga Grumps says I lost my streak on embed the other day. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with T please Chris. Gaga Grumps says Taser you got. One of my faves.
Welcome Lemon to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says S lives at number 3. E needs a new home.
Lemon says Posse.
Gaga Grumps says hi there Lemon, how goes it? Gaga grumps says posse fits.
Lemon says pesky.
Gaga grumps says P moved into number 1. E still homeless S. Gaga grumps says pesky works.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Isaac says let's go another firework.
It's a performance and explode 'em on her face. She's in a happy
Gaga grumps
place.
says fireworks for Lemon.
Wordle within 3, so gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy. As in her face they slap.
Gaga grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps says fireworks still exploding lol.
Welcome OBITO to Wordle with
OBITO
Gaga.
says type hello.
Gaga grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga grumps says hello Obito. Gaga grumps says we are starting with A. J.
Lemon says Junto.
Gaga grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top. Like a thumb, tap and don't stop. Like a thumb.
Gaga grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with J please lemon.
Lemon says Junto.
Welcome Sassy Princess Brooke to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Junto you got.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout.
Isaac says brave.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Jimmy says picky.
Isaac says great.
Jimmy says picky.
Lemon says aisle.
Gaga Grumps says picky fits.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout.
Gaga Grumps says it's a double.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out.
Lemon says wipeout.
Oh no. Wipeout.
Isaac says grave.
Isaac says grave.
Lemon says amber.
Gaga Grumps says grey fits. Gaga Grumps says we end in avenue.
Welcome Layla Lou to Wordle with Gaga.
Isaac says shave.
Layla Lou says brave.
Lemon says leave.
Layla Lou says brave.
Lola Lou says brave.
Isaac says shave.
Lemon says no or guys.
Welcome KJ to Wordle with Gaga.
KJ Tool to 6 says him.
Kenny Carlisle says shave.
Cance Jimdy says shave.
Xro0
Welcome to
says
Wordle
shave.
with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we may have a Eve trap. Filter now or after next guess.
Welcome ZXR Omer 0 to Wordle with Gaga.
Layla Lou says brave.
Isaac says after next guess.
KJ2026 says hi Grumps.
KJ2026 says hi Gagag.
Lemon says EV.
Isaac says heave.
Gaga Grumps says well the discounted needing a filter lol.
Layla Lou says at Lemon Heave.
Gaga Grumps says, hey KJ, how goes it?
ZXRO0 says Heave.
Gaga Grumps says, heave it must be.
KJ2026 says that Gaga and Grumps doing good.
Lemon says yes.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says, GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game. Good game.
Chosen by fate, play your part, it's a live date. Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says, fourth like goal smashed your fingers are on fire.
Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says, do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Get it in 3, it's do or die. Only
Gaga
in
Grumps
3.
says, if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Wordle with Gaga. Da, da, da. Wordle with Gaga. Ra,
Gaga Grumps says, let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says, what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
KJ2026 says, why can't you talk in old?
Gaga Grumps says, we are starting with A. T. Gaga Grumps says, I am non-speaking. There is a pinned post on my page explaining.
Grumps says tea time again.
Gaga Grumps says, leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
KJ2026 says okay.
like a thumb, race to the top like a thon. Tap and don't stop like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin renowned like a thon. Fingers on fire like a thon. Gremlins don't tire.
Gaga Grumps says, want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Gremlins define.
Gaga Grumps says, I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Lights the fire. Lights the fire. Lights the fire.
Gaga Grumps says, your word starting with T, please, Mrs. LHYN.
Ms. Lynn says tower.
Gaga Grumps says tower you got.
KJ206 says 344.
KJ2026 says how.
Gaga Grumps says a green O moved into 2 Wordle Street.
Muslin says pouch.
Gaga Grumps says 344 what?
Isaac says 40.
Isaac says sorry, no tea.
Gaga Grumps says pouch fits.
KJ2026 says house.
Gaga Grumps says added a yellow C in need of a home.
Mislin says focal.
Miss Lynn says comic.
KJ2026 says force.
Gaga Grumps says focal works.
Isaac says vocal.
Gaga Grumps says we end in ocal.
Mislin says local.
KJ2026 says local. Gaga Grumps says 2 options 3 guesses, we're good to go.
Welcome Lucas to Wordle with Gaga. The 11 Abu says vocal. Welcome BB to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says local is in the grid.
B11 Abu says vocal.
D11 Abu says vocal.
Welcome, Gremlin, to the game grotto. Welcome,
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Settle down, grab your heart.
Good game.
Share us round. Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah, tap it,
Good game.
It's your warm-up routine.
Even the Quaver says hello.
Welcome Ava the Quaver to Wordle with Gaga.
Game gremlins on the scene. Game gremlins on the scene. Game gremlins
Gaga Grumps says hi there Ava.
Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah,
Gaga Grumps says welcome Gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Game gremlins on the scene. Now tap that
Gaga
screen.
Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Now tap that screen.
Ava the Quaver says can we play now?
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Game gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Grumps says at Ava the Quaver it's all a game.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Ava the Quaver says house.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. F. Gaga Grumps says Mrs. LHYN on the nose.
Ava the Quaver says Phil.
KJ2026 says at Grumps, why do you always say Q?
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses
Welcome
the
Larissa
first
Joy
word.
to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at KJ2026 me likes AQ.
Race to the top like a thorn. Tap and don't stop like a thorn. Who will be crowned like a thorn? Gremlin renowned like a thorn. Fingers on
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
hearts beat flying like a thorn. Gremlins defy.
Grumps says at KJ2026 and I don't always pick it.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
KJ2026 says I think I know why are you want yous to like your live.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with F please Chris. Ava the Quaver says follow.
Ava the Quaver says follow.
Gaga Grumps says float you got.
Ava the Quaver says the wordless follow.
Gaga Grumps says follow is sixth thought Ava.
Ava the Quaver says float put.
It's a word to wipe out. No letters to shout.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out.
Larissa Joy says music.
Muslin says super.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Kaiki3 says cried. Ava the Quaver says grump.
Gaga Grumps says super fits.
KJ2026 says you just want to like your live to be the first person to get more likes than everyone else.
Ava the Quaver says snake.
Ms. Lynn says sense.
Gaga Grumps says we start with S and have a homeless E.
Isaac says NVM no P.
Kaiki3 says sheet.
Ava the Quaver says snake.
Kaiki3 says snake, yes.
Ava the Quaver says bulls.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart, Larissa.
Muslin says no A for snake.
Kaiki3 says snake.
Gaga Grumps says no Ava.
Grumps says no A.
Isaac says scene.
Ava the Quaver says snake.
Gaga Grumps says actually only part right, KJ. Of course I want all the likes, but I came up with bits of activity to songs to make up for me being silent.
Ava the Quaver says scene or snake, pick one.
Welcome Domenico to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says scene fits.
Ava the Quaver says scene.
Domenico says cock.
Welcome Riley to Wordle with Gaga.
Miss Lynn says since.
Gaga Grumps says E moved into number 5.
Welcome Elle to
C
Wordle
and
with
N
Gaga.
homeless.
Isaac says since.
Riley says sense.
Gaga Grumps says Ava. I am non-speaking, I need time to type to all of you in chat.
Shiwu says sense.
Ava the Quaver says since.
Shiwu says since.
It's playtime!
Good
Gaga is in the box!
Domenico says cock.
Grumps is on the buttons!
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says since is the shout.
What's yours? Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly!
Ava the Quaver says since.
Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here?
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Gremlins, let's go! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says thanks for following Ava.
Ava the Quaver says next one.
Ava the Quaver says pulse.
Gaga Grumps says do the beat to Gaga. Share the live, chat the chat, and shower her with roses and GGs.
Ava the Quaver says Team Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Ava the Quaver says all the way. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. K. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome Callie Lacey to Wordle with Gaga.
Ava the Quaver says co.
Callie Lacey says kayak.
Ava the Quaver says kind.
Gaga Grumps says hi Callie.
Welcome Crystal to Wordle with Gaga.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Good game. Good game.
Ava the Quaver says
Good
I like
game.
kayak.
Good game. Good game.
Ava the Quaver says kayak. Ava the Quaver says kayak.
Gaga Grumps says Crystal in the house with the GGs. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with K please Isaac.
Isaac says catch.
Gaga Grumps says catch you got. Prepare for wipeouts.
Ava the Quaver says Gaga and Grumps.
Grumps says it Crystal welcome back.
Maudie Marie says steep.
Isaac says teary.
Welcome Maddie Marie to Wordle with Gaga.
Ms. Lynn says Saint Eek.
Gaga Grumps says I think that's the first time I've had catch not be a wipeout lol.
Ava the Quaver says style.
Welcome, Reynitzo, to Wordle with Gaga.
We would be honored
Reynazo says
if you
right.
would join us.
Ava the Quaver says style.
Ava the Quaver says style.
Ava the Quaver says style.
Gaga Grumps says style fits.
Ava the Quaver says style.
Larissa Joe says erupt.
Gaga Grumps says T&E still homeless.
Isaac says sheet.
Maudie Marie says overt.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart crystal.
Reynatio says inept.
Muslin says timer. Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says erupt works.
Reynazo says unmet.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Fusions Gaming says Oyu. Stay happy and stay blessed. 2026 is your year. You are amazing. You are a legend. Stay blessed. Stay happy. Stay smiling. You got this smiley face.
Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy.
Gaga Grumps says fireworks for Larissa.
Good game.
Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet.
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game. Good game.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says yep.
Grumps says at Chris Marvin Ketch all the way to up.
Gaga Grumps says it wasn't a wipeout but still produced the fireworks. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Ava the Quaver says next one.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Crystal says I cannot find crown.
Gaga Grumps says patience grasshopper. Gaga Grumps says I'll try to pin it in goal tomorrow. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. V. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thorn, race to the top. Like a thorn, tap and don't stop. Like
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Grumps says at Crystal it's called live ranking crown in the interactive category.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Ava the Quaver says, can you say something?
Ava the Quaver says like it real life.
Welcome Sarum to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Ava I am non-speaking, there is a pinned post on my page explaining.
Grumps says something.
Ava the Quaver says okay.
Gaga Grumps says I can technically speak, but it's slurry and not easy. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with V please Crystal.
Crystal says value.
Gaga Grumps says value you got.
Ava the Quaver says yay value.
Weather says Venus.
Crystal says that was awful.
Gaga Grumps says straight in there with the wipeout blue towel.
Salim says pizza.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat. Ava the Quaver says there is no me or you.
Ava the Quaver says sport.
Gaga Grumps says no plurals in Wordle Leah.
Ava the Quaver says sport.
Sarim says munch.
Gaga Grumps says sport fits.
Welcome Harry to Wordle with Gaga.
Sarim says mooch.
Everybody get down! It's a freaking
Ava the Quaver says short.
Gaga Grumps says yellow O and T in need of homes.
Harry says mount.
Sarim says torch.
Gaga Grumps says no you for touch.
Harry says touch.
Sarim says torch. Gaga Grumps says Crystal stole the like race for next game.
Larissa Joy says motif.
Sarum says torch.
Larissa Joy says notch.
Gaga Grumps says motif fits.
Ava the Quaver says there is no har.
Grump says at Calvin RFC no O or T in place for about.
Larissa Joy says tonic.
Sarum says topic. Gaga Grumps says O moved into number 2, I4 and T still whomless.
Ava the Quaver says tonic.
Ava the Quaver says tonic.
Ava the Quaver says tonic.
Gaga Grumps says tonic is still a shout. Gaga Grumps says ouch.
Sarum says Tauren.
Grump says at Ryrai welcome back.
Ava the Quaver says tonics.
Good game.
Sarum says wait no toxin.
Gaga Grumps says toxin in movie.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game. Good game.
Eva the Quaver says I have got to go now. Have a good day.
Good game. Good game.
Grumps says it Ava the Quaver later.
Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Ava the Quaver says boo.
Gaga Grumps says thank you for coming Ava.
Grumps says it dead. Welcome Dead Grass to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says dead grass in the house.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Dead Grass says hi Gaga and Grumps.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says thanks for all the GGs, Crystal. Gaga Grumps says thanks for doing your daily heart, Deadgrass. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Why?
Welcome Eva to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Crystal sniped the like race crown. So your word starting with Y please, Crystal.
Crystal says yacht.
Grumps says it Eva 67 higher.
Gaga Grumps says yacht you got.
Grumps says wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says nearly a wipeout. But AT moved into number 5 Wordle Street.
Dead Grass says pilot.
Welcome KK to Wordle with Gaga.
KK says spelt.
Gaga Grumps says pilot fits.
BLO Som VXD says boost.
Gaga Grumps says added a yellow O in need of a home. Gaga Grumps says boost works.
Dead grass says snout.
Gaga Grumps says O lives at number 3. S is homeless.
Crystal says that's two awful words I have put but V and Y to start is not good either lol.
Gaga Grumps says snout for the shout.
Blow Som VXD says snort.
Below Som VXD says snort.
Gaga Grumps says so near and yet so far. Gaga Grumps says snort for Wordle in 5.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the box! Don't let her lose!
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Don't let him push yours!
Good
Are
game.
you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give
Gaga Grumps says do the do for Gaga. Share the live chat for chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab the daily heart while I set up the next one. Gaga Grumps says last grid of the day coming up.
Money R says next round. Welcome our wing to Wordle with Gaga.
Mania says next round.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Money R says steamy.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. H.
Mania says heavy.
Gaga Grumps says crystal on the nose.
Crystal says wow.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Mania says heavy.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thorn. Tap and don't stop, like a thorn. Who will be crowned like a thorn?
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with H, please, Chris. Gaga Grumps says hydro you got. Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Deadgrass says paint.
Larissa Joy says slick.
Gaga Grumps says paint fits. Gaga Grumps says we started how we finished. Gaga Grumps says
Welcomes
T
Army
lives
to
at
Wordle
number
with
5P
Gaga.
needs a new home.
Zombie says spelt.
Dead grass says spelt.
Larissa Joyce says slept.
Gaga Grumps says spelt works and is an anagram of slept.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says yet another wipeout to fireworks, and that is why I love them.
Explode 'em on her face, she's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga. Wordle within 3, so gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks. Gifts and emojis will explode on Gaga's face.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those governments in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for joining me to play Wordle. I will be back at 4 p.m. UK tomorrow for more Wordle with Gaga. Gaga Grumps says in 6 flag gold catch. Best end to the live ever.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Will the fireworks fly?
Gaga Grumps says thank you Cretal, you're amazing too.